welcome to this channel. My name is Nikita Antoine, and I will be doing a reading today for Ophiuchus. I did have a previous channel called Oracle of Natiro, and I'm just going to pick up where I left off. So a year ago I left off at Sagittarius, and now we are starting this new channel with Ophiuchus. So Ophiuchus. We are doing a reading today with a blended deck of the illustrated Bestiary and Herbiary. At the bottom of the deck here we have the Earthworm. Discover your purpose. I'm just reading into it. So this is, right off the bat, it's telling me about how there's kind of like an unseen mechanism that is aiding in the facilitation of the healthiness of the biome. So, and I say that because earthworms, they help aid the soil in aeration, bringing oxygen into the soil, and they also help to break down larger debris, like larger humus and stuff, into smaller micronutrients so that the plants can better utilize it more efficiently. And the earthworm, especially with this symbol, this I think it's called Triskelly, something like that. This symbol, it talks about kind of like so essentially it talks about mother, maid, and crone, and how there's something that an underlining mechanism that keeps that relationship, that cycle, running in a healthy manner. So that is your overall energy. It is making sense in regards to your reading, because it's talking about there is something that is essentially driving you, Ophiuchus, home. And I say home because with your first card we have the red salmon, and it says on the top, navigate life with determination. So this is clearly speaking of you on your way home. It also has kind of this sense of returning back to home, and it makes me wonder if, Ophiuchus, perhaps you're away from home. You're away from the birthplace is what it's wanting to talk about. You're away from your birthplace, and going in a trip, going back to it, kind of like also leaving home, is going on the fool's journey in a sense. But then this is talking about the return to home. And before, with this earthworm card, we were speaking of the biome. And so this biome being the home. So there's something that is driving you home. I don't necessarily know if this element here is the one that, I don't think that this element is driving you home, but what I will say is that this element here is aiding you on your way to home. There's this pattern here, this kind of like this going back and forth like a snake, is being presented all throughout your reading, and it has this kind of like navigating obstacles. It's talking about navigating obstacles and the need to transition really fast, because what's necessary on this journey back to home is kind of like an element of being extremely focused and also attentive to your surroundings. And in doing so, that's perhaps what's pointing to what's driving you. There's this external force that is acting as it's presenting here as predator versus prey type of thing, but I think that's a bit too dramatic. I think it's more just speaking of there are challenges. There are challenges that make you kind of have like a quick reaction moment to like skirt past it. So with this nettle card here, this is talking about that awareness of things that can essentially just like kind of trap you, well, not trap you into it, but it's talking about it's talking about how if there isn't a sense of awareness, it can ensnare you very quickly. And what it will do, nettles have a interesting kind of like an interesting reaction. One of its defense mechanisms is to kind of like, it's basically render whatever has bumped into it, whatever has damaged the plant, it can render it, that area, extremely painful and sensitive, and it kind of goes like numb after a while. But it's kind of like a strike of pain that happens when you run into nettles. And so it's talking about the keen awareness that is needed to navigate through this obstacles. And that keen awareness is coming from this red fox energy. And see, it's all in the eyes. There's something, it's all in the eyes, talking about how this awareness of yours is more on an intuition-based level. So it has okay, so this red fox, he's sliding out of these nettles. So it's talking about when your focus is put on the challenger, it's almost as if your intuition can separate the image, like it can pull out like the challenger from the rest of the crowd, essentially. So it's like you're able to put a spotlight on the challenger. You're able to see past their, like, because this does say shapeshift, so you're able to see past the glamour, the guise that is put up in front. It's not just a regular bush in the wild that you can just, or at least I know here you're presented as a fish, but it's not just a regular bush. It does have these nettles intertwined with it. So it's on this navigation home, you've been called to pay very close attention. And what that has done is kept you in a state where you're having to dodge in and out of different obstacles and take different paths and have to improvise as well. It's interesting because I was talking about that being the driving force, but I'm very curious now because if I'm not mistaken, the driving force for salmon to swim back home is for mating, actually. So perhaps this eye is also kind of speaking of kind of keeping your eye on the prize, like knowing what is going to be there once you reach home. And I believe the prize is this here, this focus of yours, the river otter. And this says, slide into joy. And this is starting to bring up kind of like the companionship that you find along the way to this destination being, the destination being the natural biome. The natural biome, what does that mean? Is that talking about like your natural space, the space in which you thrive the most? So on your way to the space in which you thrive the most, where there is no need to have to kind of like navigate all of these survival tactics, it's talking about the companionship that you made along the way and how that companionship with this otter energy here, this joyous friendship, has, in a sense, kind of like made the navigation of this journey fun. Essentially, it's talking about how it's helped you with, with the, what is this creature called? The 5-lined skink. And it says delight in daring. So with this, I mean, it's kind of like when you're with a whole pack, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel as, the challenges don't feel as severe or daunting. And there's also companionship, so you have somebody that you can bond with. This is a bonding energy. But then also there's when both of them are faced with challenges with that red fox energy, it's talking about kind of, it helps, the companionship helps aid the shift from it being kind of like that predator versus prey thing, and it helps to like ease the fear and the anxiety, and so it turns it into a game. So it's like now not needing to, it's almost like turning survival into instincts into a game. It's now something that is kind of looked out. It's kind of like living on, what do they call that? Like living on the edge. It's like living on the edge is the most exciting. It's the thing that brings joy because it's like, it gives you a sense of adventure, and it also gives you a sense of like just feeling alive. And so it's in also doing it with your buddies and friends that it like helps to make it even more joyous. I mean, who wouldn't want to be with all of their, I mean, salmon talking about kinship and like your tribe as well. So with this, there's something going on with this dodging energy back and forth. It's presented with this ribbon here, and it's also presented in the salmon here as well. So this we're talking about this being the natural biome, your natural way of being. So this is a natural way of being for you, this daredevil energy. Excuse me. And okay, let's just drop that for now. And we're gonna move on to this here. So this having to weave in and out of obstacles, kind of like, instead of looking at, basically shifting your perspective, and instead of looking at it as like needing to survive, and kind of getting like a game out of it, like a living on the edge thing, what it's doing is each time that this challenge comes, see, it comes here with the wolf, there's another snake here, this, all of these challengers coming from all different angles. Every time movement is necessary, quick, sudden movement or quick change, what's happening is that this black snake, so the black snake says, grow your truth. And what's happening here is that with each sudden movement, there is a shedding of the skin that is happening. And it's almost like, because the snake skin, of course, gets really tight around their body, and they actually have to physically rub against like rocks and things in nature, so like get their skin to shed. So this is talking about that same element, like having this element of the challenger or needing to survive is helping aid to shed the skin. It's helping in your growth. It's also, what it's doing is it's honing in on your natural skill set, right? We were talking about this being the biome. So this it's honing your natural skill set, who you are, who you be, is becoming sharpened. It's almost like a knife, if you will. Like, as you're sharpening the knife over a stone, you go back and forth, and with each pass, the blade becomes even sharper and sharper. And so it renders it, oh my God, it renders it, and it's almost like these are the things that need the underlining things that need to happen in order to keep the biome, which is, your natural way of being, healthy. Well, that's very interesting, because then it kind of talks about how like survival is what keeps you alive. Well, I mean, it is, right? Survival is what keeps us alive. But instead of looking at it as like predator versus prey, like something is always going to, you know what I mean? It's becoming a game. And it's like here with each pass, this game that is being played with your buddies, it's almost like you're getting like badges or ribbons, because this is a ribbon. It's like getting like a badge of honor or a ribbon after succeeding this, you know what I mean? This like, it's like a game, like a video game, like with each boss that you beat, you get a new trophy. And that's what this is talking about. And it's kind of talking about how like also being able to like show off all of your ribbons and stuff to your friends. And it's talking about these different skills and things that you've been able to acquire through this process, is like all of these badges and things that you wear and carry on you, and others are able to see, and they find joy in that, because it's kind of like it tells your story too, in a sense. So now that we're here, we're honing the survival skills, I guess is really what it is, honing survival skills, and changing our perspective on what on how to define, I guess, not seeing it in such a negative light, basically transmuting that and seeing all of those experiences as things that were able to aid in your growth. We have the growth, it says growth of truth, and we were talking just about how that actually helps to tell your story to other people. So it's like they can see it, they can witness it. It's like, especially with this sea eagle energy, it's talking about being able to see that from kind of like from a very far distance. Like people are able to see all of these, that's not this one, oops, it's this one. They're able to see all of these accolades from, it's talking about from a distance, from far away. Because before here, we were talking about you being a salmon, and then that salmon is here, and that is them. Now, this, and that, it kind of makes me, okay, so this is interesting because now I'm noticing that the sea eagle is also presented here in the Delight and Daring card. It's presenting itself as a challenger. Okay, so now this is almost talking about how these badges and things that have been collected along the way with each sloughing of the skin and the redefining and redefinition of your skill set is actually what is calling in these challengers. I'm seeing this, it's this in the background with these wings here, the staff. I mean, we're talking about Kundalini. It's kind of pointing towards Kundalini awakening type of things. And it's like your purpose, okay, so the underlining drive and element, we were talking about it being mating before, but what it's really, the underlining drive is this maximum growth, like this, it's the awakening, the awakening of your Kundalini energy is the drive that keeps you going in there. And what's happening is that with each achievement that is being acquired on this journey, is actually what it's doing is calling forth these challengers, and it's calling them forth from the nettles. It's pulling them from the protection, because nettles, they are protective. They are the protective mechanism, essentially, the defense mechanism. It's pulling them out from their defense mechanism and bringing them into a space where you can clearly see. Weren't we just talking about that? We were talking about the challenger being able to clearly see from like a mile away, right? So this is talking about, you know who the next, it's like you know who the next challenger is. You can see them. The next challenge. So this is the next challenger, this sea eagle energy. Because it's like, as with each rise, it's being shed. And at the very end of this, at the crown, this fish is coming out of the water. I don't know. It's making me think of crown. Like, it's breaking the surface. So once the fish break the surface, they're then visible, and then this comes in. It's talking about a crown. It's almost like it comes into the crown. It comes at the crown. Oh wow, I'm already at 25 minutes. I don't know, it's talking about it's at the crown. It's an energy, a challenge that is meeting you at the crown. So it makes me want to believe that you are almost at the tail end of your journey. You're at the finish line, and this is the last challenger. And it makes me feel as though, especially with this, with your perspective on how the game is played, that it is a game and it's not, there is nothing really that's gonna, I guess, hurt you. It's not, there's no danger here. Because this is also kind of talking more about, especially with this crown energy, it's talking more about like psychic energy. There's no real danger here. And so by facing it with this, with the joy and like it's a game, it is successful because he's harnessed this staff, this kundalini, and also this bird energy, this challenger energy, which I want to say is perhaps maybe the challenge of shedding this skin that will open the crown. Open, I think the crown is already open, but will widen it. It's because this is talking more about the shedding of the skin, so it's kind of like making it bigger, kind of like going to a bigger biome. So this shedding and everything is purposeful because it's necessary to keep the biome healthy, to keep your skill set healthy. Okay, that's what I've got for you today, Ophiuchus. Thank you for joining me. Sorry the video is so long. See you next time.